6 a.m. chilling cry, little girl's haunting plea until the millionaire unleashed a shocking truth. The sun peeked cautiously over the horizon, pushing back shadows that clung to the pine trees like secrets. But there was something in the air, a restless energy tangled with a chilling sound. A haunting cry cut through the morning stillness, a little girl's voice, trembling yet determined, echoed across the empty streets of Maplewood. It sent shivers down spines and left residents stirring, half-dazed, in their beds. Was it the echo of a lost child? Or something darker lurking just beyond their doorsteps? 10 houses down, the millionaire Robert Ashford leaned on his front porch, his brow furrowed. He was used to wealth and power, but the sound was raw and primal, rattling the very foundations of his opulent home. Ashford peered at his perfectly manicured yard, resisting a sense of foreboding that crept over him like cold fog. The little girl's cries twisted in his gut, churning his thoughts like stormy seas. He could see the faint outline of her figure in the distance, where the woods met the edge of town, small and seemingly alone. As he stepped off his porch, the world suddenly fell silent, even the birds had paused, as if they were bracing for what was to come. Was there danger? Fear gnawed at him. Why was no one else rushing to investigate? Glancing back, he spotted the elderly Mrs. Henderson, wringing her hands in despair. Someone should help her, she shouted, her voice breaking, plunging the neighborhood into a collective panic. It ignited something in Ashford, a sense of urgency swelled in his chest. He sprinted forward, the gravel crunching under his shoes like bones cracking in an eerie graveyard. As he neared the woods, every heartbeat felt louder, every breath more shallow. The little girl's cry pierced through again, a desperate plea that tugged at his insides. Was she lost? In trouble? An image flashed in his mind: the newspaper articles, the rumors, the things people whispered in the dark about what happened in these woods. The shadows felt alive, twisting into shapes that made his heart race. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Finally, he burst into the clearing, thick with silence now, an unnatural stillness. There she was, a tiny figure in a gray dress, skin pale as moonlight, hair tangled like the bushes surrounding her. She turned to him, eyes wide with fear, glittering with unshed tears. "Help me!" she cried, but what she really wanted to say felt heavier than the words escaping her lips. Ashford was frozen, the grip of terror tightening around his throat. Then, as if summoned by her anguish, shadows shifted behind the trees. He could see them now, figures, indistinct and unsettling, creeping closer. His heart pounded louder than ever. What was going on? What crucial truth lurked in the silence? What would he discover if he followed this haunting cry into the night? Ashford's instinct screamed for him to turn back, to escape the encroaching darkness. But what awaited him was shrouded in mystery, and the little girl's plea surged through him like electricity. One question hung in the air, heavy and palpable: would he dare to confront the chilling truth? The little girl's eyes bore into Ashford, glistening with an unspoken sorrow. The shadows shifted closer, filling the clearing with a pulse of dread. He felt paralyzed, caught between instinct and the need to understand. The girl's cry echoed in his mind, a haunting melody that stirred something deep within him. "Who are you?" he managed to ask, his voice trembling. Her lips quivered, and she whispered, "I'm lost." Lost, the word hung in the air, heavy with the weight of fear and despair. But was she truly just a lost child? A flicker of doubt crossed Ashford's mind. Could there be more to this? The legends that clung to these woods, the stories of children who vanished without a trace. Had he stumbled into an eerie tale of his own? Before he could react, the figures lurking at the edge of the trees stepped into the dim light. Dark silhouettes twisted and turned, their forms shifting like smoke, making it difficult to focus on their shapes. Panic flashed through him as he took a step back. "Who are you?" he demanded again, his heart pounding in his ears as he grasped for logic amid the rising chaos. One shadow moved forward, its features obscured, but the air around it crackled with a chilling energy. "You shouldn't be here, Ashford," it said, a voice that slithered into his mind like ice. The words felt like a warning, yet his name pierced through the noise. "Why? What do you know?" he shot back, his pulse racing. But even as he spoke, he felt the ground beneath him shift ever so slightly, vibrating with an energy that felt all too unnatural, all too real. The little girl remained silent, her gaze darting between him and the encroaching figures, as if she were caught in some dark game. "You're past," the shadow whispered, its voice lowering to a menacing hush. "It has come to claim you." "What do you mean?" Ashford felt a chilling sensation crawl down his spine. "No one should know about that. Not here, not now. Those you abandoned, they cry for you still." The shadow drew closer, the air thickening around him. "I don't understand." The words came out as a desperate plea, a man grasping for reason among the eerie fabric of reality unraveling before him. However, the shadows didn't relent. The little girl stepped into the space between them, clutching her dress with tiny hands. "You have to listen. They need your help." "Help? Why should I help you?" The question hung in the air as anticipation curled in his stomach. "Because I'm one of them." Her voice faded into a whisper, the despair in her eyes deepening. Ashford felt the ground shift beneath him, the urgency swelling like an approaching storm. He glanced around, his heart racing. Would he face the truth, whatever it may be? Could he risk knowing what lay in the shadows? In that moment, everything froze: time, fear, and the air itself. In a flash, the decision was upon him. The cries surged, blending into a frenzied cacophony haunting the clearing. He could feel their presence pressing down on him, and the little girl's gaze rooted him to the spot, then silence, an echoing stillness. "Will you help us?" she asked again, her voice fragile yet resolute. With a swift intake of breath, Ashford stepped closer, the desire to protect her overpowering the dread in his heart. But as he reached out, the world around him shifted violently, the shadows lunging forward, transforming from phantoms into something corporeal. "No!" The scream erupted from deep within him, but it was too late. That he was engulfed. What lay beyond the veil of darkness? What truth awaited him there? Would he find redemption, or would the past swallow him whole? The chilling answers lurked just ahead. Ashford fell into a darkness that felt alive, pressing in on him from all sides. The air thickened, stifling his breath, as if the shadows themselves wove around him, rooting him in place. Panic flared in his chest, pushing against the weight of the strange energy swirling like a storm. But he couldn't scream. He couldn't even move. Then came the voices, echoing like whispers carried by the wind. Help us, they came from everywhere, drowning out his thoughts, pulling him deeper into their world. "Who are you?" he cried, his voice shaking in the oppressive gloom. Suddenly, the shadows unfurled, revealing fleeting images, faces he didn't know, terrified and pleading. They flashed by him, each face carrying its own horror, stories wrapped in desperation. He could hear their cries over the rush of his own heartbeat, children hauntingly familiar yet forever lost to him. "Ashford, help us!" The little girl's voice cut through the chaos, crystal clear and filled with sorrow. He spun around, desperately seeking her in the gloom. "Where are you?" he shouted, the urgency clawing at him. "I can't see you." In the void, a dim light flickered, guiding his eyes toward her fragile silhouette. She was standing at the edge of something vast, the shadows swirling at her feet. "You have to let them go," she whispered urgently, her voice trembling, but there was a note of strength in her plea. "Let who go?" His confusion layered into fear, pushing against the growing understanding clawing at his mind. "The ones who are bound here. They can't move on just like I can't," she confessed, pain written across her tiny features. A rush of emotions tied his chest. What does that mean? How can I help you? Face your past. The shadows around her seemed to pulse with her words. You made a choice, Ashford. Now you must bear the consequences. The truth of her words stung like ice. Memories surged, visions of long-forgotten faces flashed through his mind. Muffled laughter, a quiet home that had long faded into echoes, and children whose eyes looked up to him with trust. No, he breathed. I can't, but you have to. The urgency in her voice pulled him closer. You have to set them free. Before he could respond, the shadows coiled tighter, constricting around him, drawing him back into their grasp. Panic surged again, making it hard for him to think. What if I fail? He pleaded. You won't fail, she assured him, stepping forward. The darkness swirled dangerously, but she stood firm. All you must do is remember. The shadows around him writhed, responding to his dread, and a distant roar filled the air, less a sound and more a sensation, echoing in his bones. The surge only grew stronger, threatening to consume him once more. Remember. The urgency pulsed between them, her eyes shining through the blackness like stars, anchoring him. Ashford felt a sudden weight lift as fragments of his past melded with the swirling shadows, and he grasped onto the memories like lifelines. He could feel the warmth of the children's laughter, their innocent joy mingling with the grief he had buried. As he steadied himself, a blinding light erupted from the little girl, illuminating the darkness, causing the shadows to retreat and wail. Help us, Ashford! They cried in unison, their voices rising in a chilling crescendo. He took a shaky step towards the light, raising his hand to touch it. I'll help you. I won't leave you again. But just as his fingers brushed against it, the scene shifted once more. The clearing transformed, and suddenly, he was not alone. Figures emerged from the darkness, not shadows but real people, their faces twisted in anguish, reaching for him. Help us! They chorused, and he was faced with the terrifying reality of those he thought he had lost forever. The chilling truth loomed over him, a weight he could no longer deny. Would he break free of the past, or would he be overwhelmed by the dark tide of his choices? As the figures advanced, the light flickered dangerously. What awaited him now? Would he truly face what he had buried, or would the grasp of the shadows pull him back into oblivion? The answers hovered just beyond his reach. The figures inched closer, shadows deepening with every trembling heartbeat. Ashford's breath hitched, each evolving face dragging fresh terror through his veins. They weren't mere illusions, these were the remnants of his choices, the echo of lost laughter, shadows of guilt long buried. Their hands reached out, pleading, fingers clawing through the dim space toward him. Please, a voice sounded, low and strained, as the closest figure emerged into the flickering light. It was a woman, heavy eyes, a despair that gnawed at her soul. You have to help us. We can't stay here. But the weight of their sorrow was suffocating. Ashford staggered back, loss piling onto his chest like stones. I can't do anything for you. It's too late. He felt his denial fracture against the cold, relentless truth of his past. The little girl's light flickered, urging him. You must remember, she echoed, her tone now urgent and insistent. You must face what you did, the choice you made. Torn between the familiar faces hovering around him and the girl who anchored his resolve, he closed his eyes tightly, grappling for clarity. Visions staggered through his mind, warm afternoons, laughter ringing bright, then dim shadows creeping in, drowning everything he held dear. He had turned away, he had chosen to forget. No, he gasped, reeling. I was trying to protect you all, and the shadows tightened their embrace, as if feeding off his turmoil. The wails rose again, a chorus of agony that hammered at his sanity. Help us. Ashford, please. The collective voice thrummed, wild desperation curling around him. Suddenly, the little girl surged forward, her form a beacon among the chaos. You can't let them suffer, Ashford. You have the power to set everything right. You just have to confront it. His heart racing, he blinked against the dark, anchoring himself in her unwavering gaze. As long as she shone like that, hope still existed. What do you mean? What must I do? Remember everything, she urged. Face it. Don't run away. A jarring burst of cold swept over him, and memories erupted like flames, consuming the barriers he had built. The laughter of children faded, but each face was painted with love before it twisted into anguish. He could see their last moments' horrific decisions that left them bound to this terrible place. Each face was a plea, a silent scream for release. Forgive yourself, the little girl insisted, the light pulsating brighter, drawing him nearer. You're not just a coward. You're their lifeline. Set them free. Then a thunderclap echoed throughout the shadows, shaking him to the core. The darkness convulsed ominously, and the anguished figures started to merge with the shadows, their cries sharpening into shrieks. His body trembled under the weight of desperation, drowning in guilt, yet he felt the weight of the girl's hope. In the moments of darkness, one must find their truth. Her voice, fierce and unwavering, spurred him on. Your truth. Panicking, Ashford grappled with the memories. Each fragment he touched shocked him, a jagged pain spreading through his mind, yet, in that agony grew strength. I'm sorry. He yelled, feeling the truth burst forth like an open wound. I chose wrong. I didn't want to hurt anyone. A cacophony erupted. The voices swelled, rising to a fever pitch. Shadows clashed with the light as the figures screamed, caught between worlds. Help us. The woman wailed, her anguished face contorting with grief. The ground beneath him shuddered, and Ashford's heart raced. Time twisted, he felt teeter on the edge of his decision. He grasped the little girl's hand, her warmth anchoring him against the storm. I will help you. He shouted, his resolve igniting like wildfire. But before he could act, the darkness writhed, swallowing them whole, and Ashford found himself suspended in an endless abyss, surrounded by screams of the past. What emerged from within the shadows could change everything. Would this revelation finally set them free or pull him into despair he could never escape? The pain of choices hung thick in the air, waiting for him to act. Ashford felt the cold grip of the abyss pulse around him, a sinister reminder that he was being consumed by his own darkness. The faces, their eyes wide and pleading, shimmered just out of reach. He could feel his pulse thrumming, like a drum echoing through the void, urging him to take the leap, to embrace the truth he'd long avoided. Why can't you just let go? He shouted into the dark, feeling helpless. Each syllable clawed at his throat, as if the shadows would swallow his voice, too. But the little girl's light burned brighter, illuminating the swirling chaos. You have to find the courage, Ashford. Show them you care. They won't be free until you own your mistakes. Courage. The very word sliced through him like ice. He had run from it his entire life. Each decision that spiraled into the past had left him hollow, drowning in the weight of regret. He inhaled sharply, forcing himself to remember the warmth of those he had lost, but in this desolation, every recollection felt like daggers. I'm not strong enough. They were my choices, but they didn't deserve this, not like this, he protested, a lump forming in his throat. Think about all the moments, she urged, her small voice unwavering. Every choice has a consequence, but you can still change what is to come. You may not understand it yet, but you can transform this pain. You control what happens next. He willed his breaths to steady, clutching her hand with desperate determination. He may not grasp what it would take to set them free, but something tugged at his heart, urging him to forge ahead. Okay. As he spoke, a sensation welled up inside him, a pulsating flame of warmth and resolve, one fueled by every tear he hadn't shed and every apology unspoken. He embraced the sting of each memory, angry, fractured pieces colliding together. The laughter transformed into screams without warning, each incident dancing on the rippled line between love and loss. A sudden, horrid wail broke through the din. You can't hide from us, I won't let you. The woman's face morphed closer, her features contorting, becoming grotesque as despair claimed her. You've haunted us long enough. Ashford's heart raced. This was what he had feared, the full weight of his actions crashing over him like waves in a storm. No. He roared against the outpouring of anguish. I'm not trying to haunt you. I'm here to save you. The shadows swirled violently, the air thickening with turmoil. The amalgamation of voices rose again, blending into one chaotic echo. Save us. You're the jailer and the key. A crack tore through the darkness as Ashford's realization struck like lightning. He held the power to change the narrative. Your pain has been my prison. He shouted. But I'll face it. I will confront what I did. I won't let you suffer anymore. The ground beneath him began to tremble. Each declaration felt like a stepping stone, lifting him clearer from the past. The cries intensified, a mix of terror and raw hope. The little girl flashed him a smile, the brilliance of her light urging him closer to the precipice of truth. Then it's time to remember. Set us free. Suddenly, the world shifted. The shadows writhed with newfound fury, encircling him tighter, but as he stepped forward, light spilled from his heart, etching through the darkness with radiant tendrils. Faces emerged from the depths, each marked not just by sorrow but possibility and opportunity for redemption, and then came a voice deep, thunderous, echoing through the fabric of the darkness. You've walked the path of an executioner, Ashford. Now, will you learn to be their savior? He gasped, realization crashing over him. The shadows were bending, and the light shone with daring clarity. Each fragment of his remorse coalesced into a surge of unyielding strength, but it came with a cost. Would he be able to wield that strength, or would it doom him to face the past in a different, more terrible way? As the light flickered and fought against the shadows, Ashford knew he was standing on the edge of something massive. A confrontation waited behind the final curtain, but now, it was all in his hands that he opened his mouth to speak, the whispers of his past and present tangled in his throat. What would he choose to say? Would he embrace his truth or allow his regret to swallow him whole? The darkness and light clashed as he prepared for the next move, and in that moment of silence, he understood his journey had only just begun. All choices, past and future, relied on one fragile thread of hope that needed to be seized for them all to be free. Where would that lead him next? The tremors beneath Ashford's feet intensified, a violent quaking threatening to swallow him whole as the shadows spiraled chaotically. He could feel a darkness creeping closer, and every ounce of resolve he had just summoned flickered like a candle in a savage wind. He glanced at the girl beside him, her light shining fiercely against the encroaching blackness. Help me! She cried, her voice piercing through the chaos. You can't let them take you. The pleading in her eyes pushed him to dig deeper into his consciousness, to reach beyond the black veil that threatened to encompass him. The faces of his past lingered, but their forms began to fade, replaced by clarity. Every moment he had cherished and betrayed danced around him, beckoning him to engage with the horrific truth he'd long suppressed. Let me speak. He shouted, forcing his way through the cacophony of despair. The ground gave a ferocious lurch as if trying to toss him back into his memories. You're right. I've haunted you long enough. Suddenly, the wails erupted into a crescendo, drowning out his words. In a horrifying twist, the faces morphed into what seemed like faceless masks of anguish, screaming his name with a blend of fury and sorrow. No. This isn't how it ends. Ashford bellowed against the noise. He felt a deep earnestness rise within him, he needed to lay it all bare. All the guilt, the shame they'd been chains around him for far too long. I want to be free, too. Free from the pain I've caused. As he spoke, a profound silence descended, sharpening the edges of reality. Time felt like it had fractured, elongated, as if the void was suspended in breathless anticipation. Every energy shifted, darkness recoiling as the light from the little girl expanded, pushing back the oppressive weight of despair. Show them. She urged, her voice a flicker of hope against the dark. What have you held inside? Let the truth rise, Ashford. Drawing a deep breath, Ashford let memories flood in, bitter yet liberating. I was selfish, I wanted their love, their approval, but I hurt them. The way their eyes had sparkled with trust before he shattered it, the warmth that pulsed in their embraces before his actions had turned cold. I took their trust and buried it in my ambition. With each word he released, a light sparked within him, igniting pathways through the shadows. They writhed and clawed, but his declaration grew stronger, pulsating with life as the little girl stood firm beside him, the eternal guardian of the light. Let the past wash over me. He continued, feeling a tempest within him, something extraordinary. I won't deny them any longer. I'll carry their pain, and together we will break free. Suddenly, the dark faces morphed again, sharp jaws clenching in rage, but Ashford's voice overcame their defiance. You aren't figments of my imagination. You are my reality. The truth is not ours to hide. The swirling shadows paused, hesitant, faltering, allowing the warm light to pierce through their fury. It felt like a battlefield, the canvas of his past clashing with the bright strokes of the future he could still create. Then came another voice, sharp yet familiar, slicing through the air. But what good is purging pain without acceptance? Without remorse? It reverberated all around him, shattering the fragile hope he had managed to harness. Ashford turned, his heart hammering against his ribs, searching for the source. Who are you? He stammered, his breath shallow, dread creeping back in. Someone stepped from the shadows, a figure wrapped in twilight, eyes glimmering like shards of glass. I am the embodiment of your regret, your reckoning. And your journey hasn't even begun. Are you ready to face what you owe? As the shadows danced around him in a flurry, casting dark reflections, Ashford felt a cold sweat break across his brow. The truth had morphed again, dark and tangled, but fear fell away in the presence of determination. The real confrontation was just ahead, but what awaited him? Would he truly find the strength to accept his past and still emerge as the savior he intended to be? Time slipped through his fingers like grating sand. The next step loomed, he didn't need to hold back any longer. But the shadows were not finished with him yet, their whispers rose ominously, promising answers and more secrets, what lay ahead in his pursuit of redemption. What new darkness would reveal itself? He couldn't turn back now. Ashford felt his pulse quicken as the figure stepped closer, shadows swirling like a tempest around them. Each heartbeat echoed in his ears, a reminder that time was ticking away. What do you mean, my reckoning? He demanded, struggling to find his voice amid the chaos that clawed at him. The figure's lips curled into a sardonic smile, filled with shadows that seemed to absorb the light. You've buried the truth under layers of denial. You think you can simply verbalize your guilt and be free? No, Ashford. It requires more than just words. As the figure spoke, Ashford's throat tightened. The little girl beside him clutched at his arm, fear flickering in her once bright eyes. Don't listen. You have to be stronger than this darkness, she whispered, her voice trembling. With every second, the surroundings morphed into a fractured memory. He stood on a precipice, a crossroads where his past met the grim expectation of what lay ahead. The echoes of distant laughter twisted into wailing cries, the jubilant reunion now marred by the stench of betrayal. Ashford, the figure prodded, its voice now a serpentine hiss, what are you willing to sacrifice to lift the weight of your sins? Is it just the pain of others that haunts you, or is it your own? Ashford clenched his fists, fury bubbling. I've suffered. I've lost everything because of me. You think I'm a coward? I'm here, aren't I? I'm ready to face what I've done. But as his voice rose, so did the shadows, howling in furious agreement, their anger conspiring with every ounce of desperation he had locked inside. What if what you truly owe isn't easily reconciled? The figure challenged, stepping closer, so close he could feel the chill radiating from it. Would you be willing to confront those you've wronged? To look them in the eye and accept their hatred? His heart thundered, and doubt clawed at him. Would he be able to bear those shattered faces, the expressions frozen in time? Could he withstand their disdain? Do it, Ashford. The little girl urged, squeezing his fingers tighter. They are part of you. If you face them, you might find a way to forgive yourself. He hesitated, gripping her hand, torn between fear and the flickering hope she represented. But the shadows surged, whispering secrets he once locked away, and in that moment, he could feel the terror wrapping around him again. Listen, the figure traced his shoulders with its icy fingers, your nightmare hasn't begun. You'll need allies. Their pain will become your strength if you can embrace it. Ashford's breath quickened. Allies? He felt an instinctive rebellion rise in him. I won't need anyone but myself to break free. Then prepare for the worst, the figure warned, fading into the shadows once more. For when you confront them, the truths will blind you. The tremors beneath his feet intensified again, a violent reminder of the ground he was ready to lose. Wait. Where am I supposed to find them? But the shadows drew back, coiling, laughing almost, a dark ambience echoing around him. The girl's light flickered, but she stood firm. Trust in me. She pleaded. We will find them together. You're stronger than your darkness, Ashford. As he thought of the faces from his past, the absence of their smiles and the regret heavy within him, another voice whispered through the void, a memory wrapped in warmth and love. Suddenly, the ground cracked open beneath him, revealing a gaping chasm filled with swirling shadows. Accept it. They screamed, a cacophony of muffled cries beckoning him to plunge into the darkness where the chilling truths would await. Ashford faced the uncaring abyss, his heart racing. Would he take the leap into this swirling pit of pain and revelation? What truths lay hidden in the darkness, waiting to shatter the fragile remnants of his resolve? The very answer to his quest for redemption loomed just beyond the edge, and with a breath that trembled on the edge of hope and despair, he prepared to make a choice that could alter everything. But would he have the courage to embrace the fire of his past? The leap awaited. Ashford felt the ground shift beneath him, the abyss beckoning like an old friend wrapped in a chilling embrace. The swirling shadows spoke a sound both haunting and enticing. As his gaze lingered on the gaping void, he could almost hear the distant echoes of laughter turning into screams. Those familiar voices were buried beneath the weight of his guilt, and he could feel their pull, a desperate reminder of the cost of his choices. Jump! The little girl urged, her grip tightening around his wrist. Her eyes shone with a glow of determination, flickering like a candle fighting against the wind. If you don't, you'll never find them. But could he really confront the darkness? Wasn't this where his cowardice had thrived, avoiding the very people who had suffered by his hand? The figures of his past clawed at his memory, faces etched in pain and confusion. Ashford swallowed hard. What if I can't handle it? He whispered, tension knotting in his stomach. Then you'll only remain trapped here, consumed by your fears, she countered, her voice steady. You have to be brave. You owe it to yourself. The shadows roared, a feral howl that made the very air shimmer. He felt the pull of the chasm, each whisper more persuasive than the last. Don't let them win, Ashford. They cried out, kaleidoscopic emotions swirling in a whirlwind of despair and anger. He took a deep breath, his lungs filled with darkness, but this time, it felt different. The pain of his past, raw and sharp, surged to the surface. It ignited a fire within him. The choice had always belonged to him. Wasn't it time to face the worst? With one final look at the little girl, he nodded, the silent pledge driving him forward. Without hesitation, he leapt into the unknown. The world spun as he fell, shadows crashing against him like waves. Coldness enveloped him, gripping tight as if to swallow him whole. For an endless moment, there was nothing but the echo of his heart and the whoosh of his descent. Flashbacks tore through him, the day he had hurt the ones he loved, the shattering impact of their betrayal, their faces fading away. Could he rewrite their stories? Crashing into a cacophony of chaos, Ashford stumbled onto solid ground. Gasping, he blinked against the sudden brightness, or was it an illusion? Flashes of familiarity struck him, a classroom, laughter, the warmth of a family dinner only to be forced back into reality by the sharp edge of regret. He was alone, or so he thought. "Welcome back, Ashford," a low voice came, slicing through the ambience like a knife. It was all too familiar, a face he hadn't wanted to see again. "Did you finally decide to play the hero?" His heart dropped, recognition dawning as if the shadows had infused life into the dim-lit room. There stood Roger, a figure from his past, rage and betrayal radiating from him like a shroud. The memories crashed into Ashford, the weight of them almost unbearable. "Why are you here?" Ashford croaked, confusion mingled with dread. "What do you want from me?" Roger let out a humorless laugh. "Want? No, Ashford, you misunderstand. I'm here to deliver something you failed to grasp all those years ago." The tension in the air thickened like fog, the stakes rising higher with every second. "Enough games!" Ashford shouted, a flicker of defiance sparking anew. But his courage faltered as Roger's expression shifted, the darkness revealing an unseen territory of guilt that resonated profoundly. "Game? Oh, it's a game for you, isn't it?" Roger pointed an accusing finger, eyes ablaze with emotion. "Tell me, Ashford, can you even remember the last time you felt remorse? Or is it all just buried underneath your arrogance?" Every word became a dagger, piercing straight through the armor he had so carefully crafted. Ashford trembled, now fully aware he was not just confronting the past but the very truths he so desperately tried to bury. That in this haunting reunion of shadows and truth, everything felt fragile. The little girl's voice echoed in his heart, reminding him of the hope he felt moments ago. Would Ashford find a way to confront Roger and the shadows? Or would they unravel him further, revealing a truth he had never been prepared to face? The darkness loomed closer, pressing in on him, and the next moment could either shatter everything or lead him to an unexpected salvation. The air thickened between them, each heartbeat reverberating with raw emotion. Ashford felt the suffocating weight of Roger's gaze, like chains binding him to the very sins he wished to forget. Anger surged through his veins, but it was wrapped tightly around fear, a fear that clawed at his chest, begging for release. "Stop! Just stop it!" Ashford shouted, flinging his hands in frustration, as though he could cast Roger's words away. "You don't know what I've faced." "Oh, I know all too well," Roger seethed, his voice dripping with disdain. The shadows in the room began to swirl again, wrapping around Roger like a cloak, as if he drew strength from the darkness itself. "You don't get to play the victim. Not anymore." With a surge of courage, Ashford took a step forward. "Victim? My life, it's been torn apart. You think this is just some game for me?" Roger threw his head back, laughter echoing with a sickening thrill. "Torn apart? You were the one doing the tearing, Ashford. You wielded the knife that cut those ties." The memories rushed in again, the broken friendships, the devastating choices, moments stained with regret. Ashford's stomach twisted. He faced the reckoning that had been awaiting him. "And I'm here to fix it." He spat, every word heavy with desperation. "You think jumping into this abyss will magically make everything right? You'll never truly escape what you've done." Roger's expression morphed into one of sinister delight, filled with the thrill of relishing Ashford's pain. "You think you can rewrite the past? No, no. You live with it." A crack echoed through Ashford's mind, the dawning realization slicing through him like glass. Roger was right, hiding from his truth. Wouldn't he pardon him? He had to own it all. Taking a deep breath, Ashford dug deep within himself, feeling the darkness swell yet again, slowly transforming from fear into a flicker of determination. "You may be here to haunt me," Ashford said, voice steadying, "but I want to let you guide my fate. I get to choose how this ends." With that declaration, the shadows around him twisted violently, pushing back against Roger. Ashford felt the air vibrate, igniting him with a sense of power he never knew he had. The little girl's presence flashed in his mind, a beacon of hope that urged him to fight back. Roger stumbled, caught off guard, fury flickering in his eyes. You think you can confront your demons? You'll only find more shadows. Then let them come, Ashford replied, conviction strong underlining every word. I'm ready to face them. And if that means fighting you too, so be it. In that moment, the shadow around Roger coiled like a snake, transforming into something more monstrous, more insidious. The air crackled with electricity as the room darkened, vibrating with a tension that threatened to explode. Very well, Roger sneered, a twisted smile spreading across his face. Let us see how brave you truly are, Ashford. Let us put your heroism to the test. Suddenly, the air burst with shrieks and whispers, a cacophony blending with Roger's laughter, drowning Ashford in a storm of voices. They clawed at his sanity, drifting within the fog of memories, each chorus echoing louder than the last. Face the truth. They cried. Confront your guilt. Rang through the murky air, Ashford felt himself crumbling, breeze becoming harder to breathe, stinging his lungs like nails. But amidst the chaos, the little girl's soft voice surfaced, now clearer and more urgent. You can do this, Ashford. Fight. Determined, Ashford clenched his fists, and with renewed strength, he stood tall, ready to face the rising storm. As the shadows coiled tighter around him, swallowing the light, he asked himself, could he withstand this harrowing test, or would he succumb to the very darkness he yearned to conquer? As the echoes heightened, promising revelations and terrifying truths, an undeniable question lingered in the tense air: what would Ashford discover about the monsters he had let rule his life? The answers were approaching fast, and he could almost feel their chilling breath on his neck. Ashford stood his ground, trembling yet emboldened by the girl's unwavering light beside him. The chaos roared, shadows twisted and warped, but as he faced Roger, fear began to lose its grip. I won't let you define who I am, Ashford declared, his voice ringing clear above the turmoil. Every choice I've made has led me here, and I will take responsibility for them, not just for myself but for those I hurt. The air crackled with energy. Roger's sneer faltered, momentarily caught off guard by Ashford's fierce declaration. Shadows hissed in response, swirling around as if debating how to react. You think this will change anything? Roger shot back, anger igniting in his eyes. You think verbalizing remorse will absolve you? No, Ashford replied, finding strength in the memories rippling inside him. But acknowledging my mistakes is the first step to setting it right. You don't get to keep me trapped in my fear. His heart hammered, the memories flooding in, a stark reminder of the lives intertwined with his own. Every promise I broke, every face that haunted me, he continued, feeling the warmth of the girl's light meld with his own growing resolve. I will carry that weight. I am ready to face those I betrayed, to show them that I will fight to make things right. You can't hold power over me anymore. With each word spoken, the shadows began to loosen their grip, retreating as the girl's glow intensified, illuminating the storm around them. The dark figure of Roger glared, but the transformation in Ashford felt undeniable, a striking light piercing through years of guilt. Then let us put that to the test. Roger bellowed, the shadows around him writhing like restless serpents. Let us see if this supposed bravery can withstand the reality of your choices. The air thickened, crackling, as new faces emerged from the shadows, anguished expressions of those he had failed. Murmurs filled the room, their disappointed eyes locking onto him, amplifying the shadow's power. You abandoned us, Ashford. They cried, voices high with tears and pain. I didn't mean to, Ashford pleaded, overwhelmed by the tide of sorrow that crashed over him. I was lost, and I let my fears dictate my choices. But I can't hide from it anymore. With newfound determination, he beckoned the little girl closer, intertwining her light with his. You all deserve to be remembered, to be set free. I am ready to face you. The faces shifted, swirling with the heaviest burdens of grief. Will you face us? One whisper floated through, will you show remorse? Yes. Ashford shouted, feeling the girl's presence infusing him with strength. I'm here to listen. I'm here to understand what my choices cost you. Suddenly, silence fell like a curtain, heavy yet charged with possibility. The shadows receded slightly, and each of the faces shifted, uncertainty flickering in their eyes. Ashford stepped forward into the dim light, reaching out toward them. If you can forgive me, if you allow me to try, then I will carry your pain with me. I won't abandon you again. Hope sparked in their expressions, mingling with the darkness. The ground trembled as emotions surged, intertwining with the past, breaking the chains binding him. Forgiveness is not an easy path, one face murmured, filled with compassion. But it can illuminate a way to freedom. Yes, Ashford affirmed, his heart racing with potential. Together, we can transcend the anguish, rebuild what was lost. I'll take every scar you bear, it's my consequence to accept. He looked over at the little girl, who smiled brilliantly, backing him as the shadows swirled tighter yet showed signs of softening with every vow spoken. Then came Roger, suddenly furious but visibly unsettled. You think they'll forgive you? Their pain is too deep. Let us see how well you handle it when the truth is unleashed. He slashed a hand, sending the shadows spiraling toward Ashford, but just as despair threatened to envelop him, Ashford trusted in the little girl's light, driving forward with purpose. I am not afraid of the truth. He shouted defiantly. I've lived in your grasp long. Enough. Determination surged through him, tethering him to the present reality, forcing the past to yield. In a burst, the colliding energies sparked like firecrackers, illuminating the night with a dazzling light. The shadows shrieked as threads of hope surged, bridging their divided worlds. I choose to forgive myself. Ashford screamed, rage and remorse igniting his fervor. With that proclamation, the boundaries began to crack. The shadows mingled with light, and electric atmosphere coursed through 5 strands of color, bursting forth unity and release. Laughter echoed faintly, love transformed anguish into a spectral warmth, shining on the faces that flickered in the echoes of Ashford's past. In a magnificent swirl of emotions, the encumbering shadows fell away, revealing the path toward the dawn. The anguished faces of those lost began to smile, each flickering with gratitude and understanding. Ashford, a voice of one gentle spirit whispered, you've taken the first step. We will carry this together. Joy surged through his heart as the dark prison shattered, spilling fragments of light throughout. The little girl stood firm beside him, radiant, now glowing like a beacon of newfound hope. As the echoes of the past settled, and the shadows recoiled, Ashford gazed into the future, embracing the uncertainty yet knowing he had taken a stand for redemption. Thank you, he breathed, his voice steady. I won't forget. I will carry you forward with me. With one last glance, Ashford turned away from the darkness, moving toward the horizon where the sky transformed from night to dawn. He stepped into the light alongside the little girl, their hearts intertwined, filled with compassion and hope. Together, they carved a path not just for recovery but for a legacy textured in love, and in that radiant moment, Ashford realized that redemption wasn't a destination, but a journey, a forever expanding bridge opening his heart to the world, allowing the light to guide him forward. If you've loved this emotional ride, it is absolutely crucial to keep following the journey. You need to subscribe now to ensure you don't miss any future exclusive stories that will touch your heart and stir your soul. Smash that like button now. Seriously, it will feed the algorithm and help this content reach more people who need to hear these messages. Flood the comments section with your reactions, thoughts, and theories about this intense conclusion. We want to hear what you think, and don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this powerful story unfolds. Your support makes all the difference.